But if we are ready, we can start to get started. Welcome everyone that has joined so far. My name is Maya Shern. I am the content marketing manager here at Healthie, and I have the pleasure to facilitate and moderate this conversation with our fantastic panelists. So just setting the tone a little bit about this webinar on the three core pillars to simplify and grow your practice in 2025. Our goal here is really to empower you, private practice owners, and different professionals in the space to establish a super solid foundation for growth by leveraging what we deem as the essential tools and systems that will attract clients, deliver immense value to the audience, and retain them for long-term success. I'd love to start by introducing our wonderful panelists today. Stefanie Hofhenke is the founder of String Marketing, a digital agency dedicated to empowering practitioners with the tools and strategies to simplify marketing, save time, and ultimately grow their practices. She has over 15 years of experience, and String Marketing has successfully served more than 400 practitioners through a really unique combination of this all-in-one platform, expert-led education, and on-demand execution that supports the specific needs of primarily dietitians and nutrition-focused private practices. So we're really fortunate to have her fantastic expertise here today. Another Stefanie on the panel, Stefanie Mendez, is a registered dietitian with a clinical background at Mount Sinai Health System, and she has experience in one of New York City's largest group nutrition practices. She then transitioned into health tech, where she now leads the marketing team at Healthie. As many of you are familiar with, this is an EHR and practice management platform. Stefanie is really passionate about building tools and resources that help healthcare professionals grow their practices, while also modernizing care delivery to expand provider reach and improve patient outcomes. And our last panelist, Jeanne Petrucci, is a registered dietitian and nutrition content creator, also with a Master's of Science in Nutrition Education from the Teachers College at Columbia University. She has participated in research with gold standard institutions, exploring the impact of evidence-based culinary nutrition education programs and tools on nutrition-related health behaviors. And she is also the founder of Living Plate RX, a SaaS education library and meal planning platform that supports thousands of practitioners with all of the client-facing nutrition resources they need to grow their practices without burning out in the process. So really diverse, varied, and fantastic experience and deep expertise on this panel today. We are so excited to have their insight. Just a little bit about the structure and flow. We will dive into the pillars of private practice success. At the end, we will save 10 minutes for Q&A. Hopefully there are some questions that we haven't answered through the course of this panel conversation. Feel free to submit those at any time. During the Q&A section at the end, I will be answering or asking questions on behalf of all of the attendees, but we'll be following that throughout. So feel free to submit them whenever they come up in your head. That is also, I'd love to get started. To start this conversation, we're going to start with the top of the funnel in terms of how you actually connect with your intended audience, and that is how a marketing strategy. Our panelists are going to explain how you can leverage different tools and strategies to streamline marketing efforts and boost client acquisition. And to get started, I'd love to ask our panelists what you see as the first steps in building a marketing strategy for private practice.
I can kick that off.
Yeah, great.
All right. Yeah, so the first steps in whenever you're evaluating your marketing plan is you want to definitely identify the niche you're going to be targeting. If you might be serving several different clients. So number one, segment your clients into different niches if that's the case, and choose the one in which you're going to target, create an offer and a messaging for that particular audience, and then choose the platforms in which they are already on to try to reach them. Then you can expedite a plan. Start small and then grow from there.
Can I chime in?
Yeah, please.
That's great. I would say yes to all of it. Stefanie and I are likely going to be completing each other's sentences. We've been working together so long, we're like sisters, right? So I agreed with everything that Stefanie said. I would also, as a private practice owner myself, really stress the importance of completing a business plan. Now, that business plan is going to include and give direction to your marketing strategy and also your operations, which I'm sure Stefanie's going to be talking, the other Stefanie with an F is going to be talking about today. But completing a strategic business plan, I think, is the most important step to take before you even go down the marketing channels, because it'll help you identify who you're talking to. First of all, you have to identify who you are, like what expertise are you going to be bringing to the table? Where do you want to be? Where do you want to live? Where's your passion? Even where's your anger, right? Like, is there something going on that is making you angry that you can take action on? That's good, right? So who you are, you have to identify who you serve, and then you need to talk about how you're going to serve them. When you complete a strategic business plan, everything that Stefanie just said falls into place really easily. Like, if you know exactly who you're going to be speaking to, you know what channels they're on. Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Are they at the local doctor's offices? Do they go to health department activities? Like, there's so much there. So answer to that question, complete a strategic business plan first. And we help people do that.
Yeah, Stephanie.
Yeah, and I agree with all of that. Your business plan, understanding what it is that you want to offer, right? And sometimes just even sitting down and writing it out as well. Just who is it? And I know we're going to talk a little bit about client niche as well, right? But I think before you even think about your clients, I think you have to think about what you offer and what you bring to the table. And I think so many times, as clinicians and coming from private practice as well, is that you undersell yourself, or you don't really think through your value of what you are bringing your community. And, I think starting from a place of confidence and just knowing that there are patients who are not getting care out there who need your services, and they need you to bring this practice to market so that they can connect with you. And we all know it. You have parents and friends and family members and yourself. Just think about the number of times you're like, God, I wish I just need a healthcare provider to do X, right? Whether it's a therapist or a gynecologist or something, and you need those services. And so your potential patients are out there and they need you to get this practice up and running. And you have to think of the best way that you can serve them. What is it that you're going to offer and that your expertise can fill?
Absolutely, absolutely. Identifying your ideal clients, figuring out the correct ways and places to reach them is hugely important. Another thing that I imagine a lot of professionals are curious about is, in some spaces, particularly in the healthcare space, there's a bit of oversaturation. There's a lot of noise out there. How can private practice professionals successfully differentiate themselves from other clinicians in the space? And what are some of the most impactful ways to stand out in a pretty competitive market?
Stefanie Hofhenke, why don't you take that one to
Yeah,
start?
I'll start that one. So I think it's really important. I mean, niche is going to be really important in specialty. It's particularly in this space because it is saturated and it is hard to stand out. So you need to be able to target very specific searches, very specific pain points for people. And that's how they're going to find you. And that's how you gain a reputation. Other than the niche, then you can look at having a unique voice and way in which which is kind of your brand. People a lot of times think of brand as just a visual thing, and it's not necessarily. It can be the way in which you educate. It can be the persona in which you exude, or the specialty that you have even can be a brand piece that helps you stand out. So I see somebody asking about what is a pain point. That's a really good question and super important. A pain point is the thing, the trigger really that causes people to search for you. What is the thing that keeps them up at night? That the problem that they're wanting to solve, and why does it hurt? Why is it bothering their life? Is it preventing them from achieving something, or holding them back? Or are they literally in pain? There's a lot of different things, but those are the things that cause people to search, and it causes people to purchase. So pain points are huge in going into your messaging, into how people search from you, how you show up and educate. It's really important to always keep in mind what their pain points are, and that you're the solution to the pain point. That's really what marketing is. It's not salesy. It's not intimidating. It's really just connecting the dots between, hey, I have this pain. Hey, you're the solution, right? And so that's kind of what you're doing in your messaging and marketing across the board.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think there's the added step of relatability. Stefanie, Mendez, I know you have thoughts on that if you'd like to share.
Yeah, I think part of standing out, right? Like one, yes, knowing who it is that you're trying to serve, right? And so I take sort of a twofold approach here. And one, again, write it out. Who is your ideal patient, right? How old are they? What are they struggling with? What are their medical conditions? What are their pain points, right? Those are the motivating factors that are going to have them reach out to you. And then you can craft your messaging, your response to that. But standing out takes more than just having a nice website. It really is, I think, putting yourself first and foremost. You know, don't be afraid to put your face on your website. Don't be afraid to be direct, to speak to people. I think a lot of times as clinicians, and even though I'm here speaking to you all and I work in marketing, I'm generally happier to be behind the scenes, right? And so when you're thinking about running a practice and getting it up and going and getting yourself out there and building your marketing strategy, a lot of times it starts with not being afraid to put yourself front and be relatable, be that person that they're going to connect with, because so many times patients as well, when they actually see your face and hear your words and see you talk, they're like, huh, that is what I need, and this is who I want to work with.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Jeannie.
Jeannie.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'll just raise my hand and like whenever you're done. Like, I just wanted to contribute a little something here because Stefanie actually had typed it in, and I'm just all over this. Like, so you asked a question: what are some of the more impactful marketing techniques that you can do? And interestingly, one of the first things that all of us think of, you know, me included, is like social media, like marketing. Like we have to be on social media. No, with a capital N, you do not need to be active on social media. I think you need to have a presence because when people do find you, that's probably where they're going to look. So you need to have super high quality and high value content there, but that is not going to be the most impactful marketing technique. For private practice owners, I'm just going to offer a few here. There are many that you can do that don't involve social media. Strategic partnerships. Number one. Number two, community engagement. So a strategic partnership could look like, it sounded like somebody was, Karen, actually, Karen with an I had commented that she's interviewing at a local gym, right, to provide some services there. That is a strategic partner with somebody who serves your same niche in a different way. For me, one of my greatest partnerships was with a fertility doctor, right? And she was integrative and functional, and she believed very strongly in nutrition as part of the intervention, but she wasn't an expert in nutrition, so she would send her patients to me and to my team. So that's an example of a strategic partnership. Second, community engagement. Now, when I say community engagement, I mean on the ground community engagement. If you take insurance and you have not reached out to your local health department, that is your first call when this Zoom call is over. Call your local health department, offer to do nutrition talks, because your ideal customer will fill that room, right? So whenever you do either a strategic partnership or community engagement, you want to make sure that whoever you're partnering with is going to get your ideal customer avatar in the room. A lot of our colleagues speak about, you know, being paid what you're worth. Don't ever do free programming. I strongly disagree with that. If you partner with somebody who is going to fill a room, virtual or otherwise, with your ideal customer, you don't need to charge. Maybe you can get paid. Sometimes health departments do have budgets, but you'll get your return if you show up and deliver value the way that you know how to. So as far as impactful marketing content, my top two are going to be community engagement and strategic partnerships.
Fantastic. I think it can be challenging where people don't necessarily know where to invest their energy and attention when there are so many different channels that they could lean into.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if there are any pitfalls that you'd recommend people avoid or don't necessarily lean into or invest their time and energy into, and some areas where they really recommend allocating their time, energy, and budget into specific marketing efforts. Yeah, Stefanie.
Yeah, adding to what Jeannie was saying, with strategic partnerships, and speaking of any sort, you're bringing back a warm audience, right? So the assets in which you're pointing them towards your website or whatever it might be, a discovery call, things like that are so much easier because you've already kind of done the trust factor in those activities. And that leads to the question that you were just asking is those particular activities, when you're just starting out and you're trying to mitigate your time and cost and things like that. Strategic partnerships are great, and community engagement, speaking is great because you're leveraging other people's audience. When you're first starting out and you're just starting a marketing plan, you might not have a social following, an email list, different things like that. So you need to leverage other people's audiences to be able to start to grow that traction. So I see a lot of practitioners starting off thinking, oh, I'm going to start a podcast and I'm going to do a blog and I'm going to do, and all of those things are really great, but in the right timing for your business with the right traction. Because if you're creating a lot of content, if you're starting an email newsletter, you don't have much of an email list, it's not going to help you a whole lot. So think about ways to be able to bring people in, get them into your email list, get them into your ecosphere, and then you can expand out into additional ways in which you're reaching them. So that's why those particular methods are so extremely effective for practitioners, especially because of the level of trust that you guys need to have with your audience before they're ready to engage with you. It's a fast, quick, and fairly easy way to be able to build that trust fast.
Absolutely. Jeannie, you're muted, but I definitely.
Oh, what would be a Zoom call without me talking over mute? So, building on that in terms of allocating time, money, like community, like boots on the ground is probably the cheapest way, because a lot of the time it's free, right? If you're just doing a talk or partnership, like, yes, you have to value your time, but that could be a really good use of your time. Somebody had commented, health department, don't they just take care of flu shots? I think it depends on your community health department. Almost all of them, they do education. They get grants to do education. Our health department does a huge event once per month. That's 12 per year. I had 4 of those. They gave me 4. So during Heart Health Month, I would do a culinary nutrition demo. And we're going to talk about this a little bit about, how do you bring value? How do you differentiate yourself? Let me tell you, if you offer a cooking demo and the health department blasts that out to your community, people are going to show up, right? So don't underestimate the value of that kind of partnership, and, do some digging first to understand what your health department has. Now, what they have going on. If you don't take insurance, the health department's not going to be a good partner for you, because the people typically who show up to those events are looking to leverage their insurance. Maybe instead you do an event with a concierge doctor, right? So your community partnership really is going to depend on your strategic business plan. And you're just going to need to figure that out. But yeah, don't assume anything about your local health department, because many are active. In fact, the woman who ran the education department for my community was a registered dietitian. So she loved, bringing us in. 100 people would show up. 10% of those people would become clients. For my practice, that equaled about $10,000 a year per event. So, the numbers work.
Fantastic. Stefanie, I'm going to get your thoughts and then we'll move on to the next
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. And I just want to address Stacy's concerns too about, your potential clientele not being there, right? At the health department. And that is, to Jeannie's point and Stefanie's point, it's really about doing the work first to know who your client is and where are they, right? Because only you can answer that question as to where are your clients and what are those community partnerships that make the most sense. I can tell you it is the single most impactful thing you could do for your business is to build relationships and build your referral channels. All you need is one great doctor that wants to send you all their patients, right? And, for me in the past, it has been like, if I was working with new moms, it'd be partnering with a yoga studio that hosts mommy and me classes, right? How can I connect with that community, right? Or, if it was digestive care, it was reaching out to, GI doctors in the area and letting them know I take insurance, I can treat IBS, whatever it is. But building those connections, it's where are your clients going and who are the other care providers or community members in their circle, and then building those relationships. And that is what's going to help you get those referrals in without having to chase so hard for every single client that needs to walk through your door.
Absolutely. So we'll move on to the second pillar, which is all about content. It's really important to leverage content as a way to attract potential clients, educate and support and inspire existing ones, and just deliver immense value and brand consistency from top to bottom of the potential client funnel. So I'd love to get started, dive in and ask the panelists some questions specifically about this, starting with at a very high level, what do you think most practitioners are doing wrong when it comes to content creation? And what is the impact this is having on both their practices and their clients? Jeannie, can you get started?
Yeah, for sure. To answer your question, where are most practitioners going wrong? I really had 3 ideas around this. Number 1, creating content without first completing a strategic business plan that, again, leads into a strategic marketing plan. If you don't have a plan and you just start creating content because it's either trendy or you think you have to, which most of us feel like we do, it's truly throwing spaghetti at the wall. It's going to be a complete waste of your time. You need to have your marketing and your messaging dialed in really tight, and you need to follow your strategic business plan. You must know, which we already talked about, who you are, who you're serving, and how you're going to serve them. Otherwise, you're just going to confuse everybody. So that is number 1. Creating content without creating a plan, number 1 mistake. Number 2, creating it from scratch. This is the foundation of my business. This concept, we all work from the same body of evidence. So why are we recreating the wheel every single time? If all the dietitians who are on with me right now write a blog post about, managing blood sugar with food, we're more or less going to be saying the same things and citing the same references. So why are we recreating the wheel every time? You don't need to do that. Licensing content has been around forever. Hospitals do it, doctors do it, many healthcare professionals do it. In our space, that's what I do, right? So licensing content, evidence-based, high-quality content that you can edit and brand is going to be your superpower, right? So creating everything that you need from scratch, meal plans, handouts, ebooks, that's a mistake. Number 3, most practitioners don't place value on their time. I am fairly certain that both Stefanie's will strongly agree with me here. Like, time is money. Like, your time is valuable. You are not doing this as a hobby, most likely. You are doing this as a business. So you need to assign a value to your time. So if you're spending time creating client materials, then you're going to have less, that's non-revenue generating time, by the way. You're going to have less time for your revenue generating time, which is counseling and running programs and getting out into your community to get clients, right? So those are the 3 big mistakes that I see happening most often.
Absolutely. What do you see as what do you view as some of the suggestions to relieve the burden or perceived burden of content creation? I know you mentioned, leveraging different program tools to help create that, but if people don't necessarily know where to look or Living Plate is outside of their specialty, how do they find these resources?
I mean, you're going to have to create the resources from scratch. You're going to be able to leverage, and I know Stefanie Mendez will talk about that a little bit. You are going to be able to leverage some templates for certain things. I would say that's where you need to start. There are going to be some essentials. And I would say, to answer your question, you should start with your essentials. But having just the essentials is not going to allow you to differentiate yourself from the red ocean out there. You need to be able to differentiate your practice from everybody else. So you need super dynamic, super high value content, which takes a tremendous amount of time. I'm talking about cooking videos, meal plans, again, handouts, ebooks. So if you are just getting started and your budget is super limited, you're going to need to just, at the very least, start with the basics. And I would say Healthie's definitely going to be able to help you with that. Stefanie can also help you with that from String Connect. And then we can help you with everything else.
And Stefanie, please.
Yeah, I'd add to that. Just whenever you're approaching a platform or marketing plan, think of content as a content engine. So content that you're creating for social also needs to be helpful content for your existing clients, or it might not be the right content. So think about those things, tools that you're creating that you modify, even if it's existing materials like Living Plate materials, excellent for this purpose, can be used in clinic, can be used in your marketing. as well. And then also look at it from like anything that you're going to approach with your marketing, create a system and a process for making that consistent. Now, if your first line of action is to get more doctor referrals, have a list of doctors that you're going to reach out to, systematically reach out, and be consistent in that, and you will find success there, right? As long as, you know, that your clients are there. So think of marketing not only from a a thing I have to do, but from a process standpoint, it's just another one of those processes, and it'll be so much easier for your business.
There are a lot of different marketing opportunities and types of content that people can lean into. Are there some that you view as more effective specifically for attracting a private practice audience or clientele? And if so, can you share what you think those are? Yeah.
Is that for me?
Yeah, you can get
yeah,
started.
and I'll actually, because I'm going to talk a little bit about the sales funnel, so then maybe Steph can pick that up a little bit too. So if you think about your sales funnel, which is there are basically three things that people who are members of my community have heard this many times. There are basically three things you have to do in a practice to be a business. You need to attract your clients, you need to serve them with immense value so that they convert to paying clients, and then you need to retain them. Every step of that funnel requires content. So I'm going to give you some examples. Top of the funnel content, and Stefanie, you can chime in too, but top of the funnel content could be something like a challenge, a nutrition assessment, a quiz, could be a blog if you like writing blogs, social media content, opt-in content like handouts, recipes, ebooks. I know somebody asked a question about like, when I'm doing a strategic partnership, how do I get people into my funnel? You have to deliver value in exchange for their email. They're not paying you yet. That's the second tier of exchanging value. They're going to give you their email. So top of the funnel, that's what you need to do. Middle of the funnel, once you have their email, you need to serve them with immense value. Things like weekly emails, newsletters, call to action for discovery calls, like free or paid, special events, exclusive offers, but you need to show up consistently for them and deliver high value content. And then of course, closer to the bottom of the funnel, either they've converted already and you want to upsell them, or you're trying to get them to convert to a paid client. You got to ratchet up the content quality again. You need to deliver higher quality, more curated content for people at the bottom of your funnel, because they've already committed to you. They gave you their email address and they've hung out long enough. Like you need to show up, right? So yeah, I mean, you got to pay attention to the funnel. It's the only way that you're going to be able to convert leads to paying clients.
Yeah, Stefanie, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's so much I could say about the funnel, obviously, but at the top of the funnel, what most people think of marketing as the top of the funnel, marketing actually is all the way down the funnel. But at the top of the funnel, attraction is about know, like, and trust. That's what somebody really needs to be able to take action. And so at the top of the funnel, you want to utilize resources like in your speaking, you want to have case studies, examples, testimonials, things that will help them see themselves in the other clients that you've had are going to be super important. A little bit of personality from you is going to always be important for them to know you and say, oh, I get you. I feel like I can talk to that person. I feel like I can share and I can really grow and transform with them. And then know, like, and then trust. Well, no, like and trust, so no, they need to know like the education part, right? So the education kind of content at the top of the funnel, it's going to be super important. And then leveraging all of that you're doing up there to the next step is always trying to get them on your email list. That's primary. That's called lead capture. In any way, you can use automated DMs. You can use lead magnets where they're giving your email in exchange for a valuable piece of content, anything like that. And that's what they're bringing down into the funnel, and then ultimately into your sales process, which might be a discovery call, a direct purchase, things like that. So you're bringing them down into the funnel with different tools. And String Connect and String, that's really our specialty, is that lead capture and automated processes all the way down the funnel.
Yeah, absolutely. Stefanie,
yeah, I think it's just important to know, especially if this sounds a little jargony, like if you're a healthcare provider, right, we've gone to school for delivering care, and all of this is so foreign. Business plans and marketing and sales funnels all can be pretty intimidating. But I think at the end of the day, all you have to remember is like, people need to learn about your services. And at that time, they're going to be interested, whether they read a blog post or downloaded something that, or they wanted a recipe that you offered. And that's how then you can sometimes start the conversation with them. So when we're talking about moving them to the funnel, it's you have those first touch points, but a lot of times, especially in healthcare, with any sales process, right? People are thinking it, but they're not ready to make the jump yet. They're not ready to book an appointment. They just have to get to that next step where they're like, okay, I know you, I see your face, I see what you're offering, I see other clients and reviews, and that gets them to take the next step, which is to book a call or a discovery call or an appointment. And so that is what your funnel is doing. It's just those touch points that make them know, hey, I'm human, I'm here to help you. I get your pain points, I have a solution. Yeah, Jeannie.
Yeah, Stefanie, I love what you said about the jargon because that is so true. But so let's translate it into something that we all know very well, health behavior theory, right? What Stefanie was just talking about as it relates to the funnel is pre-contemplation, contemplation, motivation, action, right? So what you need to hit the right person at the right time. And Stefanie, I'm sure, is now going to follow up with like, how do you do that? It's going to be all in your messaging for sure. But, people who are in pre-contemplation or contemplation, like they might not be thinking about it, but maybe they've just started thinking about making a change and you hit them at that point. That's going to be a particular kind of content. And FYI, it's not going to be a digital course, right? Like people who are in pre-contemplation or contemplation are not going to be buying your digital course, right? The people who are ready for action might be ready to buy a digital course, or maybe somebody who is in maintenance phase, right? So if you can envision the sales funnel and then just turn the stages of change, behavior change, like vertically and just drop it into your funnel, there you go. So I think like that is translating the jargon for you. Your sales funnel really is nothing more than targeting somebody at a particular point when they're ready to hear your message and moving them along behavior change, because it's not until they get to action that you have an exchange of value, which is revenue, right? It's not until they're motivated to action that they will give you money to help them get the transformation you're promising.
Yeah, Stefanie.
Yeah, I see some questions about like very technically, how do we actually do that? So like when you're speaking, some really good tools for being able to convert a lead or capture a lead when you're speaking is going to be QR codes. If you're in person, QR codes and or text to sign up. If you're digital, having lead magnets where you have a link to a form, those kind of things. And if you're doing like a Facebook Live, you can do automated DMs where people comment a certain word and then there's follow-up systems. And those are all kind of things that we help with String Connect. You want to look for a platform in these realms that can handle all of those pieces. So that's going to be really important to kind of look for tools that are going to be able to handle a lot of different things rather than having one tool over here and they got to connect it to this tool over here. And that's really where spending dollars on having people help you set some of those systems up can be really helpful and save you a ton of headaches.
You're minimizing your tech stack, right?
Yeah, minimize your tech stack. Yeah.
Right. With String and Healthie, you've got it covered. Like there's very little else that you could need outside of that in terms of, once you have all of the content to fulfill your funnel, what is the vehicle? How are you going to get that content into the hands? And a lot of the questions that you're asking actually are around that. Like how, if I'm doing an event or I'm doing a strategic partnership, how do I actually get those people in my funnel? Right. And then once they're in the funnel, how do I communicate with them? Right. Stefanie Mendez, I'm sure is going to be talking about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a perfect segue to the third pillar that we'll be speaking about today, which is EHR. Really, how can you leverage the different technologies and tools that are at your disposal to streamline workflows, enhance your client experience, the communication with your client, and relieve some of the manual burden that many of us feel as we're trying to navigate the day-to-day operations of our practice. So the first question I'd like to ask you is, what do you see as the biggest barrier to a private practice success when they are a pen and paper practice? And how can an EHR system simplify some of these administrative and operational needs in a private practice? Stefanie Mendez, I'd love to start with you.
Yeah. And, I speak from experience coming from a world of a pen and paper practice, coming from a group practice that didn't really have an EHR system in place. And we used a lot of disparate tools, right, to try and work with patients, right? And it was really time consuming. And it wasn't the best use of time. When you think about your time as a healthcare provider, you really want to spend your time where you excel, which is delivering care, not sending appointment reminders, right? Not reaching out and making sure people have booked. And there was just so many things that I would have to do, just email clients, reminding them that they have an appointment tomorrow, or sending them one more email because they haven't confirmed. And all of these things that really could have been automated and also just like a better experience, for clients, are things that we did manually. And so when I first discovered like an EHR that could do a lot of this in one thing, it really blew my mind. And we're talking a little bit years ago now. I think a lot of us do use an EHR, familiar with EHRs, right? But I was coming from a clinical world and just knew EHRs from hospital systems. So finding one that worked for practice management, for me to be able to use in my patients outside the hospital. Christy, an EHR is the platform that you're going to use for your charting and delivering patient care. Most EHRs that we can use today are really practice management systems. So they not only help you with charting with your patients, but they also help you with scheduling, booking, automating things like appointment reminders, electronic forms and assessments, and engaging with your patients. So it's more like one place to work together with your patients and deliver care and do your business stuff inside of it as well. Jeannie, I'll let you tag in and add some comments.
So I have just 2 points here. One is a strong point, which is that without an EHR, you are not able to practice with integrity. In order to practice with integrity, you must have an EHR. That you just have to have one, right? So, when I first opened up my practice, gosh, I think it's like 10 years ago now, I used Healthie. Like, I started pen to paper, like, this isn't working, and then just did some digging, right? How long has Healthie been around, Stefanie?
We just celebrated 8 years or 9 years, Maya.
Right.
9
9
years.
years.
Okay, so it was right around then, right? So I was on the
Same,
struggle bus, much like Stefanie. I was on the struggle bus, right? Doing charting, pen and paper, getting doctor referrals. I mean, now my second point, time is money, right? You need to be efficient in your practice if you want to have a sustainable practice. Getting bogged down with all of those moving parts when one software can do all of that for you is just not necessary, right? And in terms of exchange of money for your time, it's priceless, right? Because you will spend a lot of time bogged down by all of these moving parts that Stefanie already pointed out. But really, my biggest takeaway here is that in order to practice with integrity, you need to have an EHR. And a third point, to differentiate yourself, right? Healthie enables you. I used Healthie when I opened up my private practice, and I support them now. You are able to deliver super dynamic and really cool content within Healthie. You can text people, you can, Stefanie, you can go through all the different features, but what I used mostly, like the food journaling, I could send people cooking videos. I could, there were a lot of things that I could do with my patients that were different than what somebody next door could do who wasn't using Healthie, right? So think about that. Practice with integrity, differentiating yourself, and really being efficient. Stefanie Hofhenke?
Yeah, what I would add to that is that the experience that you provide to your clients can be directly related to the price of your services. Honestly, the experience all the way from upfront in your marketing to how you deliver and the automations that you build in so that there's consistency on your client side and what they're seeing, being able to customize all of that. Tools like Healthie and like Stream Connect, creating experiences all the way through that are consistent, they're set up, they're automated, increases the value in your client's eyes of what they're getting from you, because that too is a representation of you. So your tech is a representation of you. And if you're piecemealing things together, it can really feel like that you're not putting in as much effort into the client care as they would expect. So it's not just efficiency, it's also, what your client sees matters, that experience.
Yeah, one of the questions that came through was which EHR do we recommend? I think on this panel we have a pretty clear consensus, but not every tool is a great fit for everyone, and I think that's important to acknowledge. And so I'm curious what you guys see as the features that private practice owners should really prioritize when they're assessing and selecting an EHR, and what they should really look for when they're exploring these different solutions to make sure they choose the one that is the best fit for their specific needs. Yeah, Jeannie.
Well, I'm going to say this because it was a mistake that I made. Before I found Healthie, I kind of bobbled into like another EHR, and it wasn't allowing me to grow. So when you select your EHR, you want to refer to your strategic business plan and understand, where do you want to grow? What are the things that you want to do to grow your practice, and pick an EHR that is going to give you the support that you need to grow. Right. So, and that will also offer you different levels, which I know Healthie does. Like, maybe you don't need all the bells and whistles to start. So start with a basic plan, but then as you grow, you'll have opportunities to expand, and your growth will pay for the upgrade. That's easy. But you definitely want to select an EHR that can grow with you.
I think when choosing any software for your practice, and I think about this just working in business, right, in health tech, and every time you need to choose a platform, you have to think about the things that are, list out your must-haves and your nice-to-haves, right? What is it that you would really like to find in an EHR solution? And for those who have been asking, an EHR is basically the hub of your business, of your practice, right? It's not just your documentation and care, but it's also the business side of the tooling that you're using. And you have to think about the things. And I always start with, what is it that I do not want to do anymore, right? Like, I do not want to send appointment reminders. I do not want to email forms. And let's be clear, you can do a lot of this still in the like very piecemeal way. You can email a client a form, have them sign it, email the PDF back, right? But how are you tracking those forms? How are you making sure they're done? Where are you putting them? Where are you storing that? Is that even a secure way to ask a client to send sensitive health information, right? So I make a list of all the things I don't want to do, right? And I make a list of the things that I do want to be able to do, right? I want to be able to, send forms. I want to be able to have a booking link, right? So that client can just book online and they don't have to call me, and then I call them and then they call me back, right? I want them to just be able to book. I want to be able to do virtual sessions. I want to be able to chart. And for me, a big thing was when I was doing practice, and that's how I discovered Healthie, was I wanted to be able to chat with patients and not use texting. I didn't want to have to email, and I didn't want to have to text, because I wanted some kind of personal barrier between my personal phone and my messages and my client care. But I wanted to be accessible. So I would make a list of what is it that you need. And to Jeannie's point as well about scaling, right? Are you going to add, do you have a biller? Do you have a virtual assistant? Do you have any team members that you need to add and be able to work with? Are there other care providers that you're collaborating? You're doing this practice together. Not all EHR practice management solutions can do these things, right? And so start out with your checklist, and then you can go platform by platform and check the boxes, and then you'll see which ones meet the most of your needs and which don't.
Fantastic. You spoke about the importance of scalability, a solution that can grow with you. What are some integrations that people should keep their eye out that can support them in scaling, and offer streamlined workflows as they go about their day to day?
I think we can all probably contribute to this question, which
Yeah.
is a great one. Just to follow up on my last comment about what does this platform need to offer you? One, it is just other integrations, right? Is there tools that you use outside of your practice that you want to make sure is connected into this system? And Stefanie and Jeannie both can speak to that and their platforms and ability there. But also, when I think scalability, I think about great, like, you have other team members, you have other providers, right? Being able to have oversight of the permissions and controls of what other providers or team members can do in the platform, being able to have audit logs, being able to restrict access for certain things. Scalable is not, it doesn't mean that you have to expand into a group practice, but think about what it is that you'd like to achieve, whether that's multiple locations or offering in-person and hybrid care. How do you want to expand your business? And does the tools that you're using support that?
I love that. You know, the idea of scaling, sometimes people think it's just more people, more, and that's not always true. Sometimes it's going deeper with the people that you have so that you can earn more revenue, right? Like adding more value. For me personally, I would always prefer to have, you know, fewer clients, fewer partners, and go really deep with the ones that I have. That's always most fulfilling to me. And that's what Healthie allows you to do. So in order to do that, you need to deliver more value to those existing clients. So having the so Living Plate RX, my company, does integrate with Healthie. So you can issue meal plans right from in the Healthie platform. It's single sign-on for patients so that they can go to both places. And then you can also deliver the high-value education materials through the Healthie platform. We pre-build them for you inside of Healthie. So, you know, in terms of scaling, it's really about just being super efficient while continuing to deliver more value. Like that's kind of a hard thing to understand unless you have resources available, because if you don't have resources, you're just going to burn out, right? Like, oh, I got to keep creating more value, more value. So you have the vehicle that can deliver a ton of valuable content. And you need to get it in there. And once it's in your Healthie account, then it's, you know, it's easy. That's why integrations help workflows, because it's integrated already.
Yeah, Stefanie.
Yeah, I would want when you're selecting an EHR or any system, I think one thing to keep in mind is that one of the fastest ways to increase revenue without hiring other people is to add more services for your existing clients. And so when we're talking about expanding out, it could be group programs, selling courses, leveraging, you know, Living Plate and Healthie both have this really combined beautiful where you can have programs and things like that in Healthie to deliver. And that's a really great way to increase your revenue with your existing client base, and so much faster because they are out, you already have their ear. You don't have to, it's a lot cheaper to get an existing client to sign up for a new service than it is to acquire a new client. So just keep that in mind when you're selecting. You might just have really simple needs right now as you're starting out, but maybe in a year or two, once you have a good client base, you're going to want to add services. What might that look like?
Yeah, Stefanie Mendez.
I love that. And I could not agree with you more. It's not just about getting new clients in the door. It's about continuing to serve them. And it completely depends on your discipline, but I'd imagine a lot of providers here, it's something that I say, like, you would never go to a dietitian one time, you would never go to a therapist one time and expect to get the health care outcomes that you're looking for. And so being able to work with clients over a long period of time to reach their health goals and keep them motivated and keep them coming back, sometimes that goes beyond just recurring sessions, right? Weekly sessions. That a lot of the care happens in between sessions, right? And whether that's, you know, delivering some educational content or a recipe for the week, right? Or their meal plan for the month. These are other ways to continue to engage with your client base and keep them focused and motivated on their care. And the tools that you choose to use and the content that you create or leverage is really the vehicle there to help you continue to have those touch points when you cannot, you know, I got burnt out creating meal plans for every client that asked for it, right? On repeat, creating a unique meal plan and not charging for it, right? Versus leveraging, you know, getting savvy at some point and then realizing, I can create a meal plan for the month, and then I can put it in a package and charge a subscription fee for it and call it my meal plan subscription. And then every month my clients could pay me, and then it would automatically deliver to them. And every week they would get their recipes for the week, right? And so that's the type of things that, you know, Jeannie's meal planning, but these are services. You have to think about what are these other ways to continue to engage with your client base and give them care at scale is really what scalability means to me.
Fantastic. I know we are at time. I so appreciate your contributions. I'd love to say if you're able to stay on an additional 5 minutes for Q&A. I'll be prioritizing questions that come through, but for those still on the webinar, feel free to submit questions. We have a lot of Healthie specific questions that are very related to more niche parts of the product. I will be capturing all of those and we can answer your questions offline or send you the resources that you're curious about. I'm going to prioritize questions that are more broadly related to the topic of this webinar, starting with, can you talk about ways to translate partnerships and collaborations, maybe relationships with other professionals, into really successful lead generation opportunities and how you would go about accomplishing that? Stefanie, do you have do you want to get started there?
Yeah, so to get started with partnerships, one, you want to make sure that you're aligned, from a your cultural kind of standpoint, as far as like what your values are and things like that, and the kind of clients, of course, that you're trying to reach, so that that your clients are there. So that's the first thing to do, is to get to know and network, spend time building that relationship and making sure that the relationship is strong. And then from a marketing standpoint of generating leads, it can be speaking, it can be doing events together. You could do all sorts of things, and then use the right technology tools to be able to do that lead capture, the right marketing systems to be able to capture emails. Like I said, QR codes can be really helpful. Text to get on, like text to automate where you get on the email list is really helpful in those ways as well.
I can give some practical examples because I've done all of what Stefanie did in private practice. Wasn't as streamlined because I didn't have Stream Connect, but now of course it'd be really simple. Doing a live Facebook event, just like you could do a Q&A, but I would strongly encourage you to think about doing a culinary demonstration as part of it, because you get a bigger show up rate for that. In Instagram Live, that's great. For those, you would use DM automation, DM recipes to get my recipes. And in order to get those recipes, they have to fill out a form, right? So that's automated. So that's perfect. On the ground, you could go to, again, work with your local health department, or if it's a concierge doctor, which I did too, somebody who had a functional nutrition practice, a functional medicine practice, we would go to the local library. She was very popular in our community. Maybe 50, 60 people would show up every single time. When they walked in the door, there was a QR code there. They scan it and to register. Or you can do pen to paper. I caution pen to paper because some people don't have the neatest handwriting, right? So that's why the QR codes are really helpful. Most people have smartphones. So again, everything Stefanie said, make sure, don't be shy about saying no too, by the way, because as dietitians, especially, we get asked to do a lot of free stuff like, oh, could you speak at my local? Yeah. If my ideal customer avatar is in that room, yes, it's an easy yes for me. Otherwise, no thanks, my schedule doesn't permit it. Maybe I can provide you with some free materials. Like, always give something, but be really, really careful about your time and only do those events where you are going to be in front of your ideal customer avatar. And then use a variety of tools like Stream Connect has to be able to capture them. DM, QR codes and forms, things like that.
Stefanie Mendez, a question came through about ways to refer and connect with other clinicians, maybe different providers with different specialties through the Healthie product. Is there a way to do that? And if not, how do you recommend people make those relationships and referrals?
Yeah, and that is probably, again, when I say the biggest thing to building your practice is building your referral channels. What I would recommend is creating a form that you can give to other healthcare providers that cross collab with you, right? So if you're a therapist, but you work with eating disorder patients, then collaborate with a dietitian, right? For complementary care. Or doctors in that circle, the other care providers, patients, you can give them a form and say, hey, keep these blank sheets in your office, and then fax me, put your fax number on it, e-fax, because Healthie has e-fax, most EHRs do, and trust me, all healthcare providers still use fax, as much as you'd like to think of it as an antiquated form of communication. But fax that form when you have a referral. Then you receive that into Healthie, and then you're like, great, now I can reach out and contact. I have the referral reason, I have the patient information, and I can reach out to them to see if they are ready to book a call or an appointment. And then the closing part of that is ask your clients who referred them, what their healthcare provider is, and then send a summary, like assessment afterwards to that healthcare provider, fax it and say, thank you for this referral. Saw this patient for this care. If there are any other patients that need this kind of care, please feel free to, send them my way. So closing the loop there and using your e-fax through your EHR to do that.
I was just going to say it's exactly what we did. Exactly what we did. And creating the referral form, by the way, is a piece of content. So when we're talking about content, it's not always like, it can be just a form, right? But I created pads, nutrition prescription pads with a referral form, and the doctor's office would fax them to us. You do not need a roster of 10 physicians referring to you to have a successful practice. 2 or 3 is all it takes. Go deep with them, serve them with immense value. And trust me, when your conversion on referrals is going to be probably your highest conversion rate of any lead, because their doctor sent them to you, so that you already have built, like Stefanie said, know, like, and trust. That know, like, and trust, boom, just landed on your desk. And so when you call them, you can say, oh, hi, hi, Stefanie, Dr. So-and-so recommended that I reach out to you. When can we book a call? Like, you just go in assuming that they're coming in. And it's like, 85, 90% rate that they're going to come into you.
Absolutely. One of the questions that came through the Q&A was talking about assessing these tools and how for some clinicians that may not be as tech savvy or are scared to learn new platforms, this concept can be really daunting. What would you recommend as a way to make it a little bit less scary, a little bit more approachable, so they can take the steps needed to get to the practice growth that they want to see for themselves?
Yeah. What I have something to say about that. So when people are evaluating tech, not being tech savvy or not having the time to be able to really invest to learn about tech, it's absolutely fine. I find a lot of practitioners really want to know the ins and outs of how all this works and everything. And you don't necessarily need to know. You really need to know how to use it to make it effective for your clients. But that's an area where it's easy to find somebody to help with the tech side of things. So knowing the ins and out of every platform isn't necessarily needed. What you do need to know is what is the value you want to deliver? What is the voice you want to deliver that in? That's the time and the effort where you should be spending more of your time cultivating that information. And then from a tech side and automating things, that is where even if you have a low budget, that would be where you want to spend more dollars to help get systems set up. Because once you set it up and you know how to use it, that's all done. And you're able to just automate those processes, and your voice is in those processes already. And so that's how I would look at it. And when you're choosing tools at all as well, Stefanie was talking about bringing in referrals from doctors. You can also look at marketing systems as kind of a buffer between your EHR and when you're bringing clients in and processing your sales, right? So I like to think of it as your marketing system is really when you have one-to-many communication. It's open communication. It can still be HIPAA compliant. You can still be taking in information, but it's not necessarily meant for private health conversations, which should help it happen in your EHR. And so a good marketing system should be able to help be a buffer to process, capture leads, bring them in, have a sales process. And once you close that lead, they're in your EHR and they're in your private office space. And so if you evaluate your systems from that perspective to make sure that you're minimizing the number of your stack that you need, but that it's able to perform on both those levels.
That was a great segue. Stefanie, do you have final thoughts? If not, I will wrap this up as we are approaching the hour mark.
I'll let us wrap it up. I just want to shout out to Heidi here, who actually uses Healthie string marketing and Living Plate. It's really great to see String Connect. I'm sorry. The 3 systems. I guess my closing thoughts for everyone is, if you're just starting on your private practice journey or you don't feel as tech savvy, again, this might sound jargony or like a lot, but what you just need to know at the end of the day is the right tools in building your practice, because it is a business, and using the right tools for you are going to save you tons of time, help you see more patients, help you make more money, right? And so taking the time to understand what the options are and how they fit together is really worth the time, the pause to take and make sure that you're implementing the right technology into your practice. And you can do it. We've been there. Jeannie's been there.
We're
I've
all
been
here.
there.
We're all here because we want you to succeed. Like at the
Yeah.
end of the day, we're all here and we want you to succeed. And Stefanie and I in private practice have both experienced burnout. We don't want that for you. And it's not necessary. And, you know, like Stefanie with Hofhenke said, just give yourself the time. You don't have to dive into all the bells and whistles. Just start basic, select basic content to deliver in a basic way, the one to many, and then also to your existing client base. And you can, you know, move as slow or as fast as you feel comfortable.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to thank the panelists for your amazing insight and expertise. You are all deeply and genuinely passionate about supporting, you know, private practice professionals and creating more efficient, competitive, and client-centered programs and opportunities, and that shows through the amazing work you do. So I so very much appreciate you taking the time to share your knowledge and expertise with the attendees. For the questions about outreach, will we be reaching out to you directly? We will send you a follow-up email later today that, in addition to including the recording of the webinar, will include how to connect with the different panelists. If you're interested in having a trial with Healthie, if you're interested in having a consultation call with Jeanne or Stefanie, you will have the opportunity to reach out to them directly and coordinate that. If not, we appreciate you taking the time and attending, and we hope you learned something impactful and can apply it to your practice and your growth later on.
Thank you so much for
so much.
organizing this, Maya.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate it, everybody.
Take care.